Welcome to Paranormal Connections with your host, Christina George, only on DTMWithinRadio.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Paranormal Connections. I am your host, Christina George, and you're going to be with me for the next 2 hours where we delve into the paranormal. You know, it's always interesting. Everybody knows I always love to bring people that have their own, stories and onto the show to talk about them. I love bringing paranormal investigators and teams that have a lot of experience, as well to answer questions and just kind of pick each other's brains on all the new ways of investigating and the different avenues it's taking. And, when you get to some people who've been in the field as long as myself and my guest tonight, sometimes people like to try all the new techie stuff. Sometimes people don't. Sometimes they, figure if something's not broke, why try to fix it? And if, what they've been using, all the tools they've been using all these years work, why change anything? So tonight we're going to be talking with my guest about all these topics. Tonight, if you have any questions, we are going to try once again with our call-in number. We've been having a lot of technical difficulties lately, but, wintertime and everything going on does not surprise me. But if you have a question tonight, the phone number is area code 607-349-0410. And tonight, I have to say, I have one of my good friends, Stephen Brigatti, is our guest tonight. And I've been friends with him actually, probably about 3 or so years, maybe 4 years on social media. Are you there, Stephen?
Yeah. I was just saying it's going on. It's pretty close to 4 now. So. Yeah,
I was going to say, I was thinking that too. I know we're getting up there. But, it's always interesting. I love the connections that I'm able to make through social media. Not only have, I've been friends with my guests, but also we've spoken at different conventions together. We know a lot of the same people in the field, and, it's always nice to be able to make these connections that last, years after years after years, especially right now when we see so much backbiting, backstabbing, and, shit-talking, within the paranormal field. You don't really see people staying friends very long anymore. 1 week they're friends, the next week they're enemies. You never know which, where it's going to flip-flop. But I am very blessed to, have friends like you that, have the long haul, have been there and, been really great friends and great colleagues. So, welcome to the show tonight.
Awesome. I'm really excited. And one of the reasons that I am really excited is the fact that you were on my show, 6 or 7 months ago, and now I'm actually on your show.
Yes.
So it's almost like a full circle happening right here.
Yeah, and I love to do that. I mean, because there's so many of us who are in the paranormal field that did end up having our own, very successful radio shows. And it's always nice to, support each other in our radio shows, because although we, do, delve on the same topics, we all have our own, personal experiences, cases, et cetera, that, comes around. And, for you, it's not any different because you have, like me, 20-plus years in the paranormal field.
Yeah, it's been a while now.
Yeah, and it becomes kind of just part of your everyday normal life, opposed to what everybody else, and how they live their lives. And, you've actually done quite a bit of stuff. Not only do you have your own radio show, which is My Darkest Hour, and that's on Live Paranormal, correct, and I believe History FM Radio. But you and your team, you guys have been on all kinds of different radio shows. You've been on all different types of TV stations. You've been on A&E, Animal Planet, BBC One, Bio TV, Discovery, Green Channel, HBO, History, National Geographic, Real TV, Sci-Fi, Travel, and more. I mean, my goodness, you have definitely made the rounds as far as that.
We have been really busy. We do a lot of the older paranormal shows kind of stuff. And then after that, we kept getting called in to be consultants on set and stuff for different kinds of scenarios, and that's why we've been able to get around, and this kind of drove the word that got us more popular and opened up a lot of different doors and different avenues for us. So I think it's been a very interesting experience in all, you know.
Absolutely, you know, and it does. It kind of, if you're in this field and you're doing right by people, you will end up, you know, from what my experience is, you can make a lot of really, really good friends, or, you know, and network and meet a lot of great people, and which will, you know, as well sometimes lead you to many different opportunities, whether it be speaking at conferences, being in somebody's documentary. Somebody may know somebody who's doing a show that needs, you know, a team and they're not available, you know, help out with, you know, clients, all different kinds of things. I mean, is that kind of like, you know, what you experience as well?
Yes, exactly. And like I was saying, you know, besides just doing the regular paranormal stuff, we've actually been called on the sets for filming and helping them behind the scenes kind of thing as well. Like, one example I can give you is they were filming a show and they were having a seance area kind of a setup for it, and they wanted to be right, so they brought us in and kind of how the cameras are positioned and all the stuff that we've experienced and kind of help them with those scenes as well. And a lot of times we'll go to these haunted locations where they're actually filming at, and besides being a consultant, they'll let us go out and we'll do our thing, answer questions to the people, get to go to some of these great historic places and actually be part of what's happening, and I love that experience. And it's never always the same. It's always something different, leads to something else, and so forth. So I think that's pretty awesome, and those who get to experience that, that's very cool.
Awesome. I just wanted to let you know you're getting a shout-out from one of our listeners and one of my investigators, Sandy, in chat. She says, yeah, just say hi. We've been hand, you know, wave, so we want to, you know, acknowledge that she's in chat and wanted to say hi. And she actually was one of the people that came forward when I was looking for people, and she had said, you know, have you checked, you know, 7 is, and see if he wants to be on. And, you know, it's funny because, again, you know so many people, and you go on their shows and things like that, and you're looking for people, and, you know, I forget to, like, look directly at my close friends, you know, because they always have, just like you have, some great, you know, stories to tell. So I was like, oh, that's just perfect. And then got you scheduled. I ended up getting sick, so we had to reschedule, but we got you here, and I'm, you know, definitely looking forward to the next 2 hours. So thanks again for being here tonight.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. I'm really glad to be here. It's really exciting. I can talk for hours, so it's all good.
Oh, well, yeah, well, we got a good long 2 hours, and we should be able to get a lot, you know, in those 2 hours. But, you know, one of the things I usually ask everybody who comes on my show, the very first question is, what exactly got you into the paranormal? Because what I notice is that for everybody who's in this field, it is somehow personal, at least what led them here. Yes,
I agree. And it's funny, for so long, there was times where I'd be asked that question, and I always start with, I formed this group in 91, but I never really thought about how I got to that point, the whole aspect of the question.
Right.
And basically, I didn't really discover the paranormal, but the paranormal kind of discovered me. Mm-hmm. And it's older. It goes back pretty much since I was born. You know, I hear stories from my parents telling me, I would say things or do things or talk to people that weren't there and all that stuff. And I just thought it was one of those things. And I remember as a child, I had a guardian angel that I was able to see. It wasn't something strange to me. And I would always be playing and laughing and talking to him, and it was a pretty great thing. And then at one point, as I got older, that he just kind of went away, and I guess they're always around when you need them, but when you're small, they're right there, you know, playing with you, interacting with you, and that was just one of those things. And then I've always had experiences with seeing other spirits and stuff, and it was just one of those things I grew up into. And my mother was more involved with the supernatural, and, you know, before it was paranormal, she would always be doing reference stuff and learning more about what's going on, about spirits and ghost stuff. And as a kid growing up, I always thought that was fascinating, you know, ghost stories. It's like, wow, that's so cool. And things were good, and then one day I had an experience that wasn't so friendly, so to speak. And we're living in this place, and I was feeling this pressure. You know, I'm not going to say that I'm psychic or anything. I haven't been tested, so I don't know what the deal is. But I get these feelings, and they come over me, and they've always been true. I feel this pressure coming over me. I feel this strange sensation, and it's almost like a radar, where if a ghost or an energy moves across the room, I'm able to pick up on that flow or that movement, so I know where it's going. And it's been great for me in the paranormal field because, you know, I have this little backup camera, which is a little point-and-shoot camera, and I'll pick up on their energy, and I'll feel it moving or that direction, and I'll just point my camera in that direction and not even look, and just take a picture over there, and then I check the film, and I've caught some amazing photographs on that, just by that feeling. But I was having an experience where something negative was trying to get to me or talk to me or influence me or whatever it was, and I told my mom about it, and she was part of HMI in Los Angeles for many years during the 70s, and they did a study on that, and they were saying it was something negative was trying to contact me and all this stuff, and told me how to ground myself as I grew up more, you know. That was interesting. But that's what kind of intrigued me. It's like, okay, things aren't always the same. They're not always Casper the Friendly Ghost or the ghost of a relative coming back to visit. There's something more going on here.
Right.
And that, you know, and I hate to say that's the thing that kind of intrigued me, but it was. I wanted to find out more about what's going on with this alternate kind of existence as well. And so I started studying more, reading more, borrowing my mom's books and doing all the research and learning about that and other cultures and their experiences and what they feel. Because back in the 70s, there was some interesting books, but you didn't have them like you go to Barnes & Nobles now, and there'll be an entire section on paranormal. So many books.
Oh, you don't have to tell me. Yeah, absolutely.
So back then, you're reaching for stuff, and when you find something, it's very interesting. So
I tell the story all the time.
Yeah. And,
I tell the story all.
Good.
Hold on, I tell the story all the time because it's great that you make the reference, you know, and you're around my age where, you know, we experienced a lot of the same things. You know, for you it was great because obviously your mom, you know, was into the stuff and she had, you know, some books. You know, I would go, obviously we had no internet, but I would go to the, you know, library looking for books to help me understand what it is that I was seeing, what I was experiencing, why was I experiencing it. And I couldn't find anything on, per se, like psychic abilities. Like, there was a lot of books, like, on witchcraft, so for a while I thought I was a witch. And, you know, there was, like, all different, you know, things like that. But there really wasn't anything about, you know, per se, psychic abilities. So, you know, it was almost like, you know, searching for answers of what's going on in your own life and trying to understand it, but you don't really have that. And I like the fact that your mom, you know, was into this. And so, you know, she did talk to you about it. And, you know, there was, you know, some things. But even with all of that, you know, both you and I and many other people with abilities, you know, growing up during that time, ended up, you know, encountering some pretty, you know, dark entities, even, you know, with the knowledge that you had. Now, can you tell me about how old you were when you had the encounter with the, you know, with the darker entity?
Yeah, I was about 8 or 9.
Okay.
You know, it was one of those things where I was always fine, you know, with the feeling of other spirits and stuff being there. You know, like I said, usually it's past relatives or someone,
right,
you know, trying to be nice and hanging out, you know. But this time, it was much darker, and it made me feel real uncomfortable. But after that experience, it was like I wasn't sure that if I was safe to be alone anymore. So that kind of put that shadow down on me. And, you know, one of the things I want to learn more about it was how to ground myself and protect myself or something like that, you know. My mom used to know all these little techniques for grounding, and they were just great. And I guess I never really understood or appreciated what she was trying to show me until that moment. So I'm like, oh, that's what this is all about. Okay. Because, yeah. You know, so I kind of went that direction, and that led me into a lot of other different things. And like you said, back in those days, there wasn't a lot of paranormal type books. The most reference books were like witchcraft books or Wicca books, because you find a little bit of that stuff in those pages. You know, they talk about developing psychic abilities or communication with spirits and that kind of stuff. So you kind of learn a little bit about that as you go along. Yeah, I thought it was part of the same thing, so I'm like looking at that. But as I got older, I realized it was more of a not so strange thing because it's happening so much. I mean, how can we just ignore it? Like for me, I can't sit there and say I think there are ghosts. I mean, for me, it's just a plain fact, and it's too bad it can't be like that for everybody. And you'd be surprised how many these so-called skeptics actually end up doing having some kind of experience, and they just don't even realize it. They just kind of blow it off.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, we talk to people and clients all the time, and it's funny that you'll get people that will not only have paranormal activity that they experience at home for different times, and they will kind of find a way to shrug it off or discount it in their brain and talk themselves out of even really paying too much attention to it. Until it's like really right in their face, and then it's such a profound personal experience that they usually go from non-believer to they're a believer. And it's sad that it takes such usually either negative experience or a profound experience to make somebody become a believer. Because like you, I mean, this has always been my life. Although I've had to live kind of a dual reality, live one way, and act like all of my other friends, and then, my reality of what I was able to see and interact with and experience. And, now it's kind of melding. More people are coming forward, more people are paying attention. More people are saying, oh, okay, they're coming forward with their stories. But one thing that I have noticed over, probably, I'm going to say, like the last 5 or 6 years, and you've got a team, so I'll get your opinion too, is we're seeing a lot more of the negative-based and type cases, where prior, say, maybe 10, 15 years ago, you rarely ran across anything that was very dark. It was usually, like you say, a family member or, somebody who passed away on the property or in the house and, very simple haunting type scenarios. Now, it's like I haven't had one of those simple cases in years. Like, it seems like every case I get is worse than the previous one.
Yeah.
Has it been that way for you?
It has. It's interesting. We've done a lot of cases, and usually it's grandma's coming back to visit, or Uncle Jake is showing up, that kind of stuff. But then you get these other energies that come through, and they're not so nice, and they become more aggressive, and you hear more stories. Things are moving, the kids are being threatened. She's being pushed down or whatever. It just keeps getting something new every single time. People getting choked or whatever. I've been attacked a few times. That's always interesting.
Yes, I've had that happen too.
And a lot of people that think about spirits and stuff, when we're talking about dark spirits or dark energies, not everything is demonic. I mean, we've actually encountered 2 demon types, and they weren't like on TV. They weren't like, oh, we're going to eat the souls of you and do horrible things. They didn't really care about people. They were just kind of passing through on their way to do whatever. I thought,
interesting.
Yeah, I guess there's, I know a lot of demonologists. They tell me there's different types of demons, and they do have different things that we do. And these ones didn't care about us. It was coming through, and, you know, we were able to see one of them, and it didn't look like it had horns or claws or anything. The way I can explain it is, those of you that remember the show Scooby-Doo, you know, those the red, white, and black phantoms, you know, they were showing. Yeah, it was kind of like that, but you couldn't see the arms. You could see the outline of the arms, these big shoulders, and it wasn't human size. It was much bigger, much bigger. And so that's what blows me away about. I'm like, wow, what is going on here? What is happening with it? And it was just passing through, doing its thing, but you could just feel the heaviness and the darkness of it, which is unbelievable. Wow. And the second time we were at a mausoleum, and one cruise through there, and you could feel it, like the density, like almost like a heat kind of thing, but the smell was so overbearing. It was, to this day, I think it's the worst thing I ever smelled in my life. You just wanted to start throwing up. It was so bad, and then it just faded away. And then we're just like, wow, what's going on with this?
Wow.
And I was very surprised, you know.
Well, I mean, I think that's very interesting that you say. I mean, I believe as well that, you know, what people consider, you know, demonic isn't always per se demonic.
Yeah.
I do agree with that, and I say this all the time, you know, with my team. There are dark, you know, entities out there, you know, and they're just really nasty things. You know, I don't want to say they're demonic because they're not demonic, but they can still be just as nasty, you know, and want to, you know, go out and push people and hurt people. And I think that, you know, all the television shows coming out has really kind of done a little bit of a disservice, because it seems like every time we get a client, they are, before we even arrive there, they've already, you know, self-determined that they've got demons based off, you know, the television show and and what they're going through. And, you know, a large part of the time, you know, it's not anything like they're thinking.
Exactly. You know, and it's funny, because there's a TV show, one of the shows I watch, there's two guys, and one guy sits in an RV outside in the control room. The other guy walks through, like, these big, massive insane asylums and prisons by himself. And he's in the dark, all alone, deep down in the bowels of these prisons. So he's thinking things are talking to him and trying to get him and stuff. He's screaming on camera. It's like, dude, really? He's going through the prognosis of, you know, the scare factor. He's being spooked. He's freaking himself out.
Right. Oh, yeah.
You know, and I get it. I understand why the network wants this crap, because people are on the edge of the seat going, oh, my God, something must be doing something. Oh, my God. You know, and nothing's happening. But you got a guy, a grown man, deep inside a prison screaming into a camera. And that's what they want. They want to be frightened. And like, okay, I get it. But that's not reality. I mean, it's people, like you said, the faucet's turning on in the middle of the night. Oh, it must be a demon. You know, that's not what it's about. The TV's turning on and off. You know, it's like there's so many things. You know, let's not jump to conclusions yet.
Right. Yeah, and there's so many things. You know, like I said, there's so many different answers for what it could be, other than something demonic. And even if there's paranormal activity, you know, that's found, again, does not mean that it is demonic. You can get somebody who's passed away who let's say they were a serial killer, or they were, you know, loved to, like, beat people up all the time, or things like that, and they they die and they don't cross over. They are still going to be that nasty, mean person that they were in life. And they're still going to want to go and push people and hurt people, and, you know, with the same intentions. So, I mean, we've had cases, you know, before where I do feel that, you know, the person that, you know, was there with somebody who was very violent in life, and, was just continuing this on in death and had not crossed over, where if they would have crossed over, they would have lost all those, those mean, nasty, horrible traits, but they haven't. And so, a lot of times these people, or people confuse, human spirits that just, have a nasty disposition with demons. And it's, for me, it's a little bit different because I can see the spirit. So it's like if it looks like a human spirit, then, pretty much I figure it's a human spirit. If it, looks like something, then I can tell it looks like something else. I mean, so for me, it's a little bit different than most. But, still, again, not everything, is out to get people. But, again, you can still have some, irritated and cranky and just outright plain mean, spirits that hang around. And, I think that we run into those more than, the per se, demonic forces. But, I mean, who knows? I mean, we get a lot. And we have seen an increase in demonologists, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Because, anytime that, anybody even thought that there may be a case that, was demonic in nature, they would bring clergy in. And then people started deciding, I guess, that they didn't per se need clergy. They could, become demonologists themselves and, go after it. What's your opinion on going into the field of demonology, because it seems to be like a popular thing to do right now?
I know a lot of demonologists. I've met a lot of demonologists in the field, and like you said, since I've been doing this for over 20 years, it's really been a lot in the past, 9 years and more. But there's only a couple that I actually would bring information to or talk to because I know them and I know what their background is. But there's a lot of people thinking, well, I want to get in the paranormal field. What am I going to do? Being a parapsychologist is too much work. I have to go to school for that. Let me take the easy route and be a demonologist and study, history and mythology, different types of energies. And I do understand the background and all that stuff's great, depending on what you're going to do with it. If you want to do that and write books, that's fantastic. But like I said, there's only a few that I know. Then I'll take on an investigation because I've never had anything so much over the top where I needed to bring a demonologist in to tell me exactly what's going on because I haven't had an experience yet like that. Maybe someday I will. Hopefully someday I won't have to. But, it's great for information, but I don't believe that every time something happens, it's caused by some kind of demon.
Right.
I don't think there's a lot of religion out there saying one thing, and a lot of folklore going on, and people don't believe in spirits, they only believe in demons. And, I'm not that person. I believe in multi types of different levels of energy, and pretty much that. There's things on the other side that have never been over here. They're not used to being in an earthly realm. They're not used to being human or even knowing what a human really is. They don't have those kind of feelings or compassions. There's things that come through from the other side that are totally different things, and we don't know what they are. So we call them like anomalies or certain types of energies. The whole shadow person phenomenon right now, people keep throwing it up and down and saying, I don't think those are human spirits. Those are something else, Maybe, maybe not. I haven't had an experience, a negative experience with a shadow person yet, and I've seen a few of them. So I don't know. But I'm not going to write along and say, yeah, those are demons coming through, and they just want to cause harm because, I've walked through some old abandoned asylums and stuff, and I've seen really big outline of a person get up right in front of me and a couple other people at the end of the hallway and start walking away.
Right.
Like, and then I was, and it's always weird the first couple of times with the shadow people because your brain starts trying to matrix. It's trying to make sense of what it's seeing. we're at the end of a hallway and coming to a door, and all of a sudden the shadow from the corner just starts walking along the wall and going somewhere else, and first thing is, there's somebody behind us, a flashlight. There's nobody there. It's like, where's this thing going? What's going on? That's pretty interesting stuff.
Right, absolutely. And another thing that we're also seeing is that a lot more people, we've been going through a shift. And so for those people who say their abilities are activated, but they're very, very in the very early stages. So they either don't pay a lot of attention to it, or they're just starting to recognize that they have abilities. We're getting a lot of reporting from clients like that they have abilities themselves that are now starting to report seeing shadow figures. And again, once right away, people's minds go to shadow figure means it's demonic. Where these people get all this, it blows my mind sometimes. But it's like, if I had, a penny for every time somebody, gives me another reason they know something's demonic, I'd be a rich person by now. But what we notice is that a lot of times when people have abilities and they're either starting to build on that, a lot of times they will sense, spirits, and then when they start to be able to see them, they see them as a mist or a shadow figure. Again, doesn't mean that it's demonic. The spirit could be trying to materialize, in front of somebody, or the person, again, may have abilities that, is trying to be able to focus in on that energy or that apparition. So many different things. But I'm with you. I mean, in all the years that I've been, doing this, I have never had to call in a, per se, demonologist to help my clients. I've always been able to help the clients that we've had. Now, in the future, will that change? Possibly. Because I as well, now over the years, I've met, a few people. And to be honest, it really is a very small number. I mean, although there are all kinds of people who say they're demonologists, there's only a small handful of people that if I felt somebody needed, that's what they needed, that I would send them to.
Exactly.
Only because I really don't believe that, per se, demonology is something that too many people really, truly understand. And I think that just kind of like with investigating or any other on-the-job type training, you learn it through trial and error over, long periods of time. And so, the more you start dealing with stuff like that, you know what to do. Just like with an investigator. But, I mean, I'll tell you, I'm constantly learning, because none of my cases that I've ever had, I don't think, mimic each other. I mean, they're all very different. I mean, they may have similarities, but, each case is something completely new. And it's like, you learn how to, you either make all the right decisions, or, you have to go back and, if that doesn't work, go and do something else. But, that's really over the years, that's how you kind of learn. And I just think that there's really not enough people that have, per se, been in the demonology field long enough, or can even tell me any actual demonic cases that they've even had.
Yeah.
I would think that you would at least need to, have had a few demonic cases before you actually, crown yourself with the title of a demonologist.
Well, yeah, I would hope so, because it takes years of studying that one subject to really, truly become a demonologist. A lot of people just think, oh, that's what I'm going to go do. I had a friend, and their apartment was haunted once, so now I'm a demonologist, and I'm going to go out there and help people. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that. The same thing with paranormal teams, and they have somebody on their team they refer to as a skeptic. To me, a real paranormal skeptic is somebody who kind of studies the field a little bit, studies the backgrounds. If they're going to just go out there and try to disprove everything, then they should know what they're trying to disprove. Not just someone who's not a believer and saying, I don't believe in anything, so I'm just team skeptic. It's like,
right.
You're not really qualified to be a skeptic. You don't know enough about it to be skeptical.
Right.
You know, a lot of people just think I'm crazy for that, but that's me. You know, on my team, you have to have some kind of background and knowledge, you know, to be useful on the team. You just can't be a licking and thinking that you're going to be on taps and have your own show because that's what paranormal people do. It's like, no, it's a whole different game.
Yeah, you know, and it's so sad because, again, for us that have been in this field for a very, very long time, there never was any, per se, like glamour in this field. There wasn't many of us, or if there were, really nobody knew anything about them. You know, it was something that we usually did, like, by ourselves or with small groups, and we were found, through word of mouth. And, I remember, probably 15 years ago, I can remember saying, man, I really wish that, there were more paranormal investigators, because it would really be cool to be able to, have other people who have the same interest. And, I guess that's, what I say, be careful what you wish for, because, it was like the TV shows came out, and then all of a sudden, it's like the floodgates opened, and everybody wanted to be a paranormal investigator. And, I have no problem with that as far as, the research aspect of it, because the more people we have out there, the better chances we have it, result, in getting facts and scientific proof to be able to bring forward. I'm like you. There is no ifs, ands, or buts if I believe that, the paranormal, realm exists. I absolutely do. I've been living it my whole life. But as far as, now we've got so many people that are, saturating this, that they're no longer interested in just, researching and investigating. Now they're wanting to actually take on clients. And that's where I've really got a problem, because there really is no management of anything. We've got people, that are, sex offenders and, people on parole and just craziness. And there is really no place per se where, people who are having activity can go and know where to be able to find a good team. Because if you go do a search in your area where, 10 years ago there was maybe 5, teams around the whole Northern California area, now there's, over 400. So, it's kind of opened up the, I guess, kind of like the floodgates of, I think, a lot of what we're seeing now as far as all the negative cases. I think that many more people are trying to play investigators. We've had clients where they've had, sometimes, 2 or 3 other teams come through and try to help them before we ever got to them. Yeah. Have you found that too?
I totally agree. That's the problem. People always mimic what they see. And obviously we're seeing paranormal investigations happening on television, and that's so interesting and so cool. It's so spooky. I'm going to go walk around an abandoned asylum and maybe take a picture of a ghost and bring my digital recorder. And they're doing this. They think they're going to jump into it overnight. I've been to my friend, like I said before, I've been to my friend's house, and they had like a cup move in the cupboard, and it was totally spooky, and now I'm going to go help people. It doesn't work like that, It's actually causing more harm because they think that they have a camera and a flashlight, and they're going to go running around their cemetery downtown, and they're going to go to someone's house that might really have a problem, and they're just going to make it worse. I mean, what kind of service are they planning on offering? And with as much of the TV stuff that I've been involved with, it's a lot of it's a bunch of, crap. It's not what paranormal investigation is. That's not how it's done. It's, days and days, sometimes weeks, sometimes months, even years on some big cases. It doesn't You don't show up for the weekend, set up your DVR camera, run around the house, and then break it all down in a couple hours and think that you're going to go home and help these people find out they have a ghost or something. It doesn't work like that. And TV makes it look like that, and it's not true. When CAPS goes out to an investigation, they're there for a couple of weeks at least trying to film for a short episode, 30-minute episode, and cutting that stuff up. It's not like that. I've done TV shows, and I've got a cameraman standing in the bathtub as we walk into the bathroom. It's like, really? What are we doing here, people? Are we going to help this family investigate, or are we just going to mess around all day and play ghost hunter? It's not what it's about. And I hate to say it because I have so many friends that are on these shows, but for me, it's not about that. I don't care about being on a TV show. That's not what I'm doing. If your goal is to be on TV and be a paranormal investigator, you're going to go do it somewhere else. Don't try to be a paranormal investigator on TV. Be an actor, an actress. Go be in the entertainment field. Leave the serious paranormal investigations to the people that really care and they really know what they're doing. You know, they're just causing more harm. And another thing I noticed in the paranormal field, I've met a million paranormal investigators just everywhere. Every convention I go, everyone's supposed to be telling me they're a paranormal investigator and they do this on the team and blah, blah, blah. But where are the paranormal researchers?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, where are they? You're doing all this gathering evidence for what? Just so you can tell someone that they saw a shadow in your house? No. You compare those notes with these notes. What was the temperature of the room at that time compared to the temperature of the room this time? You know, was there anybody else in there? Were there certain objects in there? You know, do your baseline testing. People just don't do it. They just go to people's houses and think they're going to play paranormal investigator.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, I so agree on you. That is, like, so awesome. We are right there on the same wavelength on that one.
Yeah, it's funny, and I don't want to be rude to anybody, but that's what I'm thinking, you know. But there are some really well-known paranormal investigators that I know that are like I consider pioneers in the field, and I've talked to them about that, and they say all we can really do when we meet people like this is not try to put them down or say, you know, think badly about them, but try to educate them as much as we can. We say, like, you tried this. Next time you go out and do that, try this with it, and then make a comparison of notes. Keep it journal. So I got so much stuff, you know, put together. I could put out all kinds of books and stuff, and I'm actually been working on that. But, you know, people want to see the comparison, the different things. I get asked all the time, what's the best equipment to use? What's the best technique, you know? And I look at them, I say, everything. Try everything. You know, don't limit yourself. Don't go out and buy a $5,000 thermal can and run around someone's apartment thinking it's going to be the solution, because that might not be the tool for it. There might be something else. You know, I've seen a lot of ups and downs with equipment like the spirit boxes. Let's talk about spirit boxes for a minute here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've seen people break them out, and it's just scanning radio frequency, and you're matrixing, hearing things. Oh, did you hear what that said? It said car. They must have died in a car crash. And then all that stuff. They think the word stair. Like, oh, they're all on the stairs. There's also the word outside will pop up, and they're like, oh, he must have been in a car accident outside, and now he's on the stairs. It's like,
right.
Oh, what are you guys doing?
Right.
So, but there are times when I have been investigating testing equipment, like a spirit box, and it was right on. It was no longer, it wasn't scanning frequency anymore. It was yelling at me and calling me names, and it was an incredible experience. But the problem is there's so far and few in between. I had a couple of great experiences, but the majority of them haven't really been that great. So for me, that's not really the tool. You know, I'll try something different after that, you know, but I always like to mix it up just so I can do a comparison to what's happening at the investigation.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, it's interesting when we talk about research because, you have started to see, where all of these teams now are, everybody thinks they're better than everybody. Nobody believes or wants to, even see a society where we can have unity and work with each other. You see people, hiding and, or claiming locations, and they don't want anybody else, any other teams to come in and investigate it. And to me, there's so much ego, it's so sad, because the thing is that when you have a truly haunted location, best thing as a researcher is to have as many other teams that can come in and investigate and validate what you're getting. And so you all share all of this, information in the background, all the different things. And, it helps us grow as a community, helps bring, forth evidence, proof and evidence of, existence in these, hauntings in these locations and things. But again, that's not what people are interested in. It's all about, we want to be the only one to know about this location. We want to be the only person, to talk about it. We're going to be the only people to write a book on it. It's like right away, everybody's minds start going, money, 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 money. And for all of us who have been in this field for all these years, it has never been about money. More money comes out of our pockets.
Yeah, exactly.
Than ever we ever even considered that we would make money. This is never what it was about. I mean, the research is to be able to help, bring forth, the evidence of proof of existence of paranormal, activity. The other, to people who don't believe. But the other thing is just like what it has ended up, building into, it could be something so positive, but people have so much greed and they're so worried about, egos. In this field, I'm telling you, I've had more than one time, I will make, friendships or whatever, and then somebody will either disagree with an opinion of mine or they will want me to do something that I don't want to do. And the first thing that they will do is threaten to go and ruin my reputation in the field. Not based off of anything of my research or any of my cases or anything, or any of those things. It's because of very personal, somebody gets pissed off. And, I think that's what's going to really hurt hurt this field as a whole is, the people that are, driven by the egos and, the thirst for fame and recognition opposed to just really being out there to bring awareness and help people who need it.
Yeah, very, very true. I do agree with that. But let me tell you about a case, though. I used to think that it was pretty lame that people try to be the lead team at a location, blah, blah, blah. But there was a case where the Pasadena Playhouse was letting people come in and investigate. And some paranormal teams came in there, and they were up in the library, and one of their paranormal team members decided to carve his name into the antique bookshelf in the library.
Mm-hmm.
So I do understand kind of people trying to be more selective of that, but at the same time, that's one case. And so I understand the trend of perspective. But I know what you're talking about. I see it happen a lot. With a lot of the abandoned hospitals and stuff out here in the California area, I see it all the time. This is our place. You have to contact us, and we'll decide if we're going to let you go in there and do whatever. It's just like, it's ridiculous. And like I said, more qualified investigators should go in there to do their study and their research. It shouldn't be cut off, or you shouldn't have to pay this other paranormal team money or to go on their ghost walk and stuff, because that's not what it's about. Everybody has their different styles of investigating. So walking around with a flashlight and a camera is not the way a lot of people just do serious investigation. There's a lot more to it. And that's the whole thing. I think they need to learn to work with other qualified teams and not think that, oh, yeah, we're the best team in the business, or you know, we're the most qualified and we're going to have our own show and crap like that. You know, it's like, come on. Let's all work together as a community. We are the paranormal community. We all need to share, and we all need to learn from each other.
Absolutely.
If every good paranormal team actually put out there the right information and stuff, we would learn so much from each other. It would just be a giant smorgasbord of knowledge. It would just be never-ending. And that's what we need.
Absolutely.
We don't need everybody joining little paranormal gangs and stuff and trying to hold down their territory. You know, you can't come in here because this is all wrong. You know, it's like, no.
Right. Right.
You go in there with your team on this weekend. My team will go in the following weekend, and then we'll get together the weekend after that and compare notes. You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think, yeah, working together is the best way because, again, you know, if you've gone in and you find this place and you get some amazing, you know, evidence, because, again, as investigators, we know there are plenty of times that you can go to a place that is even very well-known haunted, and you might not get a thing. So, you know, when you do get that great evidence, you're like, yes, but, okay, now you've got this great evidence, but now it's just great evidence until somebody else can get some, you know, corroborating great evidence to back up what you got. And, you know, the more you get, you know, from other teams, and, again, I think that it's amazing, and we need to look at a lot of teams because there are so many teams, like, you know, I'm still, I have to say, you know, pretty old school, you know, about how we investigate and things. But I am very interested in all, like, you know, the new technology and different, you know, ways and theories of investigating and obtaining evidence. So, you know, we're constantly evolving, watching, you know, learning, watching videos, different things to try to expand our, you know, our knowledge and the different things that we use in the field. And I think that that's, you know, a good thing. You know, how are you feeling about, like, all of the new technology that's coming about? Do you think that it's going to, you know, help the community or hurt it?
Depending on what its purpose is. We all know that when you have an app on your phone, it's probably not the most reliable piece of equipment that you're going to get evidence to as hard evidence.
Right.
I mean,
right.
I understand it, except for one. I got to throw this out there. The FLIR 1. Are you familiar with that yet?
Yes.
It is a thermal cam for the iPhone. I have tested it, and it works great. And I'm not just saying that because my nephew helped with the design of that camera. I found out about it years ago. You know, when he was like, hey, Uncle Steph, I got some news for you. We're working on this because he works with FLIR, and he would give me all the inside scoop. And I'm like, oh, awesome.
Right.
So he got me a prototype to play with, and it was kind of weird at first because I wasn't used to it, but then after a while, it was like, it worked so good. And the iPhone is your recorder. So you can actually take still frame, you can do video, you know, it has a bunch of charts and little graphs and stuff that you can monitor, and it's constantly recording what you're doing. So I think it's a great little app. I mean, it's one of the best ones I've seen come around. But there are some weird things that I'm not sure. They look like neat lights and little fog things, and that's great. The flashlight testing, I'm not so sure about that. You know, it's one of those things that maybe not. It's not really conclusive. I've been fortunate enough to go on an investigation with one of those TV teams, and their big thing is the flashlight thing. So we were doing some filming, and they said, okay, well, let's calibrate our flashlights. And I'm just like, okay. So I saw them how they set up their flashlight, and okay, well, let's see. But we know that batteries heat up and cool down, so that's affecting the contact on the flashlights. And I don't know if a ghost will turn the flashlight on or not. They would ask a question and say, "Can you turn the flashlight on for me?" And then, like, about 4 minutes later, the flashlight will come on. They're like, "Oh, thank you so much. Oh, you're here with us. Okay, can you turn it off?" And it'll stay on for another 2 minutes, and then it kind of blinks out. They're like, "Oh, thanks for turning that off." And I'm just like, "Really? You guys are going to go with that?" And they're like, "Oh, this is so exciting." It's like, no. Well, I'm not saying...
We have to be able to, I mean, even for our team, we have to validate, evidence, by at least a couple different, standards. So, like, we get a picture, we're also going to try to be able to, see if we're able to recreate it. We want to get, an EVP, we want to use, Class A EVP. So it's, because again, we get so many times you'll get something and, 7 people will listen to it and all 7 of them will think it says something different. So if, everybody's not 100% on what it's not clear, we can't use it. Well, we don't use it. And so, for our team, we're very, very strict about, what we use as far as evidence because, there are so many, other, reasons for things. I say this all the time, but I think that anybody wanting to get into paranormal investigating, needs, number one, to not use television shows for their training, number one. But I do think that, I know my team is working on it. I know other teams are working on it as well, as putting together like Paranormal Investigating 101 YouTube videos for free so that, if people are going to get into this field, at least they have an idea of, what they're doing, different things like that. I think that we'll see more of that, over time. But again, I think that people who are going to get into this field, need to do a little bit of, research and educating themselves before they get into it, especially like taking a basic photography class. Because if I see one more picture of, snow or rain or, somebody breathing and them saying that it's, some demonic force, I'm going to just, scream because I can't take it anymore. Because if people went and, took just a basic photography class, they would realize that there are explanations for a lot of anomalies that we see people, posting up on pics. But again, a lot of these people are new investigators. And so instead of, everybody just attacking these people, instead we need to educate them and teach them, that would be interesting, but, this is what it is, and debunk it if that's the case. But again, we run into the point that a lot of people will put their evidence up, ask for feedback, and then when somebody doesn't, follow their train of thought that it's, whatever they're saying, they get very defensive and get very upset.
Yeah, I get that all the time. People send me pictures of orbs constantly.
Yeah.
And they're outside, it's dark outside. Who knows if they're just recently running the sprinklers? I don't know the conditions or what was going on right then and there. So I can't tell you that it looks like Grandpa. You look at, you can see this little round, another circle inside the orb, and it looks like his nose. It's like, I'm never going to be able to tell you that because I don't know. I wasn't there. It looks like condensation. It looks like something else, water. Was it raining? People send me pictures of them at the beach with fire pits. And they send me these pictures and say, look at all the orbs around the fire pit. It's like, really? And then if I tell them, the wind's blowing, the dust in the air, blah, 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 they totally get mad at me and tell me that I'm wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, okay, I might be wrong, but again, I don't know. Do you have any video? Let's work with some video. It's like, no, it's just one picture I caught.
Right. And the thing is that people put these, things up and, wanting people's opinions, but, it's like they need to put in bold, lettering in their post. I want, feedback of only if you agree with me.
Yeah.
Because I think that we need to let people know when there is a alternate reason for what they're seeing or what they've captured. And for some of us who've been in this field for a very long time, when something, especially like with photo anomalies,
yeah.
We've seen it happen so many times that we're like, oh, we already know what that is, And although that person doesn't know, again, they feel that, they don't want to be wrong, but yet they're not, they haven't been even in the field long enough to even know if they're actually right.
Yep.
So where do you think that, all this takes with all these conflicting, egos and, thought processes and wanting, to be the best and everyone looking to be the next paranormal TV show? I mean, where do you think that this is going to take our field as in a whole?
I don't mind the paranormal TV shows. I understand they're for entertainment. You can't really take them too seriously if you're really serious in the investigator. But I would like to see newer paranormal TV shows that are helping spread knowledge and information. What happened to those shows that we used to have back in the 70s and 80s, like In Search Of or Sightings? That was good stuff. And we're learning about pioneers and what they were doing, what they're talking about. It wasn't all cheesy, taking, this newbie and throwing him in a supposed haunted location in the dark and letting him see what's happened, because that's just not what it's about.
Right.
I don't care what they say. It's just not what it's about, And I would like to see more education come to television, if anything.
Right. I always say, too, I'd like to see, them show it when they are having these shows that are taking on private clients or businesses. I would like to, have shows that actually show what they do to fix the problem for the client. Because more often than not, we see these teams that go in and all they do is validate for the client if they have actual paranormal activity that was captured on either, on film or on a photo or on EVP. So, and we're seeing that in a lot of teams, because we had a client recently, and they had 2 other teams come prior, and one left and never came back. The second one came, and they said, oh, yeah, you definitely got activity going on, and, you'll have to call another team to have them, help you, because we don't do that. And for me, I figure, like, most of the time when I call you, they're pretty darn sure that they've got activity going on in their home.
Yeah, that's why they're calling you.
Right.
Call the fire department or police department, then you can be like, okay, yeah, we don't. That's not us, but send these people out there to get them started and say, oh yeah, we caught something in your house. Here's a copy of it. Thank you. And they're out of there.
Right.
Like now, the client called you because they wanted to help. You took an interesting photograph of something. You saw something on video. Now you're leaving. Now what? It's like,
right.
It's not how it works. Get the pros in there that know what they're doing to solve the issue as soon as possible, especially if there's children involved.
Absolutely.
You can't just go haunting in their house when there's children being, that are scared and being scratched or whatever, and just leave them hanging there. But how are they going to sleep that night? What's going to happen next? You're going to go on Facebook and look for a new team to send over there? I mean, it doesn't make sense. Don't take on private resident cases if you don't have the experience yet. Learn from somebody. Look at a reputable team, study what they're doing, learn from them, and then start going off on your own. But don't just buy some new equipment and start running out of people's houses thinking you're going to help people, because you're not. You're just going to make them more scared. You're just going to piss off when what spirit or energy is there, and you're not doing anybody any good.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, for those of us that, we really do care about, our clients and helping people, it is very frustrating because most of the time when you go in, and you start poking around, you are going to agitate, whatever is there. And the last thing you want to do is, piss something off and then tell the clients, well, yeah, you're right, you do have something going on here, but, not only do we not do anything other than just validate whether you have activity or not, but we also don't even have anybody that we can refer you to that can help you. And what really troubles me is because, with our team, first of all, when a client calls, they have a questionnaire that they have to fill out, and it's a pretty lengthy questionnaire.
Uh-huh.
And, we want to know, we go through just about everything. And even, what their thoughts are on what they're wanting to see the outcome of us coming, what do they want to get out of it. And so, before, and then we, do the initial interview with them. And so before we ever even go in there, we already know, what they're experiencing, what, or the case manager knows, what's going on, what they're expecting, what they want. So I'm wondering why other teams would not be doing that, because if you know that this team, that this client does not only want validation, but they want the activity to cease, then, and you can't do that, why would you even take on the client? Or why would you not bring in, an additional team or somebody to help to be able to, give the client what they need? And again, it's even just simple things like that people who have never, gone through any kind of training or, I always tell people, if you're interested in, getting into the field there, even if you want to start your own team, call a team in your area, and see if you can shadow with them on some investigations so that you can kind of see what they do and, how you do things and, things like that. Because you really do have to do your own research because every team does things differently.
That's right. You got to pick
teams leave bad things out.
Yeah, they got to pick that technique that's best for them, but, bring somebody else in. What's interesting now is there's a lot of meetup groups out there now. A lot of good teams will have these little meetups, and you go to a location, they talk to you. I've done a couple seminars for some meetup groups as well, and kind of give them a little bit of information. They ask you questions, and they kind of get them started in the right direction,
Mm-hmm.
They're learning a little bit, and they're trying a little bit. And that's what I want to see more. I want to see more hands-on training,
Yes.
That's one of the things we don't really do at the paranormal seminars that we talk at. We're answering questions and meeting a lot of people, but we're not doing so much hands-on with equipment and showing them and discussing certain type of techniques. I would like to see more of that at some of those events.
Yeah, I agree. And I know, when we do ours, we have a few of our team members that, usually will travel with me when I'm speaking. And our group table, we'll have it set up and we'll have all different, equipment over there. And we actually will, when people come up, we'll actually instruct them on how to use each one and answer questions one-on-one like that. Because I think, like you said, it's like those are little things that are really very important. And people need to, know all this stuff. I mean, just knowing how to, take the correct, EVP. And, some people know how to do an EVP, but they don't know, anything about the software, to extract it or, to the filters and, how to enhance it, to hear it better and all the different things that are available. So there's just so much that, people don't know. Some people, have teams and they don't have any kind of questionnaire for their clients. The person just calls up and says, hey, I've got activity, and it's like they, start calling around saying, oh, my gosh, we finally got a case, let's go. And they all, get together and just head out there and see what's going on. But it's really, for professional teams, there's a process that you need to go through. And, you do want to have a lot of information about your clients because a lot of times, sometimes it's not anything paranormal. It could be psychological. Sometimes people are on, certain medications. Sometimes they have hallucinations. Sometimes they have mental disorders and they perceive it as paranormal activity. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it all just like I have. Our team has seen it all. We've definitely had some very interesting people over the years that, have showed up as clients.
Yeah, and with the whole questionnaire thing, I think that's, with any team, that should be a must. Because
absolutely.
How can you go to somebody's house and deal with the situation when you have nothing to go on so far?
Right. And people sitting there wanting to tell you something all of a sudden, and, when you get there, and forget a lot because they're kind of like, put on the spot. And so they're trying to remember everything. So, we send them the questionnaires ahead of time, and they fill them all out. And then, it's like they get them back to us once they have them all filled out. So there's really no time limit on it, but they've got their time to really think about everything that they need us to know. And it makes it very helpful. Sometimes, I used to be a nurse, and sometimes knowing people, what medications they're on.
Yep.
Because sometimes medication can cause people to hallucinate and, experience different things. So there's just so many different variances. And again, a lot of this stuff you just learn over the years, just dealing with everything. But, for those that are new, these are all very important, pieces of information and things to learn.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, my first questionnaire is nothing like how my questionnaire is now. I've added about probably 4 pages at least to it.
Yes, ours is too.
Yeah, but you start off
evolves over time.
And, yeah, as you get more involved with doing the investigations and dealing with people, you come across different scenarios, and that's why you tailor your form, because you come across something you didn't expect before. Let's say one lady tells you she gets ready for bed, and she lays down in bed, and all of a sudden her right leg gets all tingling like someone's touching it, and blah, blah, blah. Then you find out, well, when does this happen? Well, every night when I get ready for bed, I go in the bathroom and I brush my teeth, and then I get some water, and I take my pills, and then I go lay down in bed, and about 15 minutes later, that starts happening. It's like, okay, what are the pills? And you find out what the pills do, what are the side effects. Tingling sensation, lightheadedness, all that kind of stuff starts happening, and then you start realizing, okay, this could be part of the side effects of the medication she's taking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and even something else we started adding to our thing, and again, it evolves because, like you said, you have a case and something will happen. You'll say, once you finish the case, you'll say, boy, that would have been some good information to have known prior to us going out there. So, you're like, we'll add that to it. Well, we had a case one time where they had some activity, and the daughter and stuff was, seeing things, and come to find out, they had a smart meter, which are very popular here in the California, you're in California too, out here, especially in Sacramento, we've got the smart meters everywhere, and so they emit such a high frequency from them that it causes people to become delirious, to hallucinate, to see things, all different kinds of stuff that was exactly what the client's daughter was experiencing. And it happened to have, they had converted like the garage into a bedroom, and the smart meter was actually in the garage. So, and, it was like just, spiking our EMF meters and stuff, completely off the charts. So, again, there are so many things, so now we ask people, do you have smart meters? A smart meter at your home. wiring, especially like in old homes or really old microwaves, emit very high frequencies as well. So sometimes people will get really bad headaches, at certain times, and, if you can look back, sometimes it'd be like when they're using that appliance every night at dinner time, or something. That's when they seem to get the headache. So there's lots of explanations for sure that we see over time. But again, I know so many teens that I've come across that they don't even use any kind of questionnaires at all.
Yeah, that's where they're failing. We need to take a step back and look at step one. Questionnaire, release forms.
Yes.
The last thing you need to do is be a new team and going out there and then doing more damage and then getting sued.
Mm-hmm.
That never works out good.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm sorry, what was that?
I said, yeah, absolutely not. Yeah, and again, it's usually the people before you, that's like a trial and error thing. They, get burned or something happens and they're like, okay, now, we'll never do that again. And, now this is going to be our new rule and things like that. But for those teams that have gone through, all these ups and downs, to kind of try to perfect or find a good way to, handle cases and investigations, those are the ones, of us that need to step forward and continue to start educating, again, all these newer people. Because at the conferences, I used to see a lot of, people that were, everybody, knew each other at the conferences. But I'm starting to see a change in it. I'm starting to see, a lot of new investigators coming. Because I think, all the older people that have been in the field for a while, the conferences really aren't their thing. Because, it's like they already, they kind of know it all. But
yeah, so they just
seeing a lot of new ones.
Yeah, exactly. Or, this is my thing. Going to paranormal conventions and there's nobody there but para-celebs. It's like, there's very few people that I would pay to go listen to talk at some of these events. And a lot of these, like I said, I know a lot of these people that are speaking at some of these events, and they're great, they're very cool, but as somebody trying to learn about the paranormal, those probably wouldn't be the people that I would try to learn from.
Right. Oh, I agree. I completely agree. And, it's just like for me, I don't go to, conferences where, go and pay to go to conferences because it's really like if there isn't a whole lot of, educating the people at these conventions anymore, and these conferences. It's more like, a big party. And, everybody comes and, it's like you get a couple people that will have some great, lectures and some great topics. But then again, if you get a bunch of para-celebs there, there's just really not much that they add. So you spend all these hundreds of dollars to go to these conferences, to learn nothing and to be able to hang out with people. And then on top of it, those people, are charging, $50, $40 to take a picture with them or, get an autograph. And it's just just blows me away. Mm-hmm.
It's like, why would they should be excited somebody even recognizes them because it'll be over in no time and then no one's going to remember.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I totally see it. I see it up all the time.
Well, it's one of those things where, it's still a big thing. I mean, everybody still has an interest in this. So when they see these, same people, out there over and over, they do get, a following. They do become, these quote-unquote, para-celebs. But, it starts to, again, you get all this ego, and eventually these shows are going to be canceled. And, it's like, then these people are going to go, right back to whatever it was they were doing. And some of these, people, it's like, they don't even go back to investigating after they leave these shows.
Yeah, so, they go to do some other kind of TV show. I mean, that's what they go to, and they don't care. It's not about the paranormal. It's about being on TV.
Right. And I mean, I've been offered, a few things to do on TV, and, my thing is that I'm just really not interested. My thing is that I did the radio show to be able to reach out and be able to touch, a lot more people, and be able to let people know that they weren't alone, discuss different, topics, and I feel like I can help and educate and get the word out more, that way than going to conferences and speaking, to these, groups of people. So I think that it's worked out, well in that. But I think that the paranormal field is always going to have an interest, but I think the, shows are just going to die out. I mean, after I saw, have you seen the, that show that they started, Paranormal Asylum?
Yes.
All right, what's your thoughts?
That's the Ghost Asylum, right?
That's the one where they go in and they say they capture the spirits and then they release them.
Yeah, those guys. That's interesting. I don't know. They kind of mix theories, which is great. But whether the stuff they're doing is working, I don't know. I saw an episode of that last week, as a matter of fact. And they said they had a box, which is pretty much a mirror with some lights in it. And it's one of those old, trippy 70s boxes. And you look at it, looks like it's a corridor, in this wall. And they're saying that this little thing, it traps a ghost inside. And they're trying to force this ghost into the mirror to get caught. I don't know about that. I don't know if that's going to work, because why would the ghost just get in the mirror because you're standing in front of it?
Right.
If I was going, I'd go to the other side of the river and go, look at these guys. Are they serious?
Exactly. I mean, it's just like, trying to tell, spirit to cross over to the other side and to the light. If something doesn't want to do it, they're not going to do it. I mean, they don't just do it just because you tell them to, And, again, it's like, I see these people, saying that they're trapping these spirits where there's no evidence that any kind of spiritual entity has been captured. And then they go and they, quote unquote, release them. But my question is, what in the hell is the point in that? You might as well just say you relocated it. Because, you haven't done anything by taking it and releasing it out of the house. It doesn't mean like you crossed it over.
Yeah, it's not like you caught a raccoon and you're just going to put it in this trap and go down the street and send it free into the woods. That's how it doesn't work like that. That's what I'm thinking about that show. It's like, I've seen them come in there with like a fish tank and stuff and saying they're going to try to use the fish tank to manipulate the ghost in the water and stuff. And I'm just like, really?
Yeah.
It doesn't even make sense. Why are you guys even doing this? We're going to trap a ghost and then we're going to release it somewhere. It's like, no. But yet they still make episodes, so I don't know. People must think that's what they're doing, because I'm not convinced of it at all.
Yeah. I don't see that one being around for too many more seasons, to be honest. I think that's going to be a...
And some of those guys, 3 of those guys on that team are really cool dudes, but I just don't know about what they're trying to do. It doesn't really make sense, I've seen a guy try to make a containment vessel, and it was much more impressive and much more high-tech. It had a Tesla coil and everything. That was pretty cool, but I can't guarantee that's trapping anything either. Because it doesn't have like a ghost magnet and then it's sucking the ghost in. It just doesn't make sense.
Right, like something out of like Ghostbusters or something, it's just going to vacuum them in, and it'd be great if it worked that way. But again, it's like if they come up with this stuff, how do you actually prove that you've actually captured something? I think that, that's even a much even vaguer thing to try to prove than, what we're trying to, prove in the paranormal. I just think that would be so much harder to prove that you've actually done that. And the thing is that each week they come up with like this new idea of how they're going to capture this next spirit.
Yeah.
And so they have all different, views and things like that. It kind of reminds me because a couple years ago I had went and I did a case out in Oregon, in Portland. And I went out there and did it with a syndicated radio show host out there, a nationally syndicated radio show. And so after I did the investigation, he's kind of skeptical about, psychics and things like that. So I gave him all of the information that I got when I did the walkthrough and did the investigation. And then he waited for his tech team and everybody to analyze all of the footage and the audio and everything. And we got back together, and the guy was blown away because everything that I was picking up on was validated. And so one of the things is that there was multiple spirits, human spirits in this location that were being kind of held there against their will from this darker entity. And, these people were just, pleading to me to help them. And so I said, well, what are your plans? Okay, I'm giving you all this validation, but it's really bothering me because, these spirits, want my help. And so, this guy's like, well, you can't cross them over. And I'm like, why? And he goes, because you can't do that, unless they ask you. And I'm like, well, I'm telling you that they're asking me. And he goes, well, I have to find validation of that myself. So when he got the EVP stack, what does it say? Please help me. So he's like, okay, I definitely want to, do this. Well, he decided he wanted to make this big, marketing thing, with the radio station and everything out of this whole thing, and he wanted to do it on Halloween night. And he had said, we are going to, cross over the spirits and, hopefully, help release these spirits that are there and get rid of all this activity that's there once and for all. And I was like, well, that's great. I'd be happy to be part of it. Until they filled me on in the rest of it. And he said, well, we want you to be there, but we want you to kind of follow what we're going to do because we have a very specific way of how we're going to do this. And I was like, okay. And I go, well, how's that going to be? And he said, well, I've got a friend of mine, working on, he's making a replica of the Ark of the Covenant. And so what he was going to do is that his theory was that he was going to make this, Ark of the Covenant, and then they were going to put a bunch of, crosses and religious stuff in there, and then they were going to bring a rabbi, and he was going to do whatever he did, and they were going to open this box, and they were going to tell all the spirits to jump in this box, and that they were going to, cross them over. Okay, red flag right there, but I still kept listening. And so he says, and then at that point, we're going to have a hearse waiting outside, and we're going to load the Ark of the Covenant into the hearse, and then we're going to drive it up the street to the local cemetery, and we're going to unload it, and we're going to release them and cross them over. Oh, my God, if we can have, that with the biggest eye roll in the world, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. First of all, that's not crossing them over. That's crossing the street. There's two different things, Yeah. Second of all, what makes you think that if you open this box and you tell the kidnapper and all the hostages are together, and you put in this box and you say, okay, everybody wants to get out, jump in that box. Now, if the killer jumps, the bad person, jumps in the box, do you think all the hostages are going to jump in the box with them? Hell no. So I kept trying to think, how do you figure you're going to get all these things to jump in this box together? And then, like I said, in the way to cross them over was just to, take them over to the local cemetery and in this elaborate, showing of in all its Halloween, glory, and go out there and do it that way. I mean, it's just the things that people will come up with to, just follow the ploy, and it almost, I say all the time, like, they do it just to mock the paranormal. So, I refuse to do it. They still went ahead and did it, but I refused to go there. I was was really irritated on how it was all taken, handled from the beginning. But, make a mockery of it on top of it. And, again, they're not helping these spirits that, were there. They didn't help them at all.
Yeah, I'm not understanding either. What was he thinking that was going to, why would they get in there? Was he going to put, like, some money in the box or something?
Well, it was supposed to be, like, religious relics and coins, and then whatever the rabbi, whatever ceremony he was doing was supposed to, like, make them want to go into the box. From the way they explained it to me. I still don't get it, because again, what would make them want to get in a box?
And why were they going to use a bunch of crosses on the box?
Well, they were going to put it inside.
They were going to put it inside?
Yeah.
And the crosses were going to do what?
They were just supposed to, again, I didn't understand if you're going to put a bunch of crosses and then you're going to have, a Jewish rabbi.
Yeah. What's the problem here?
Right. It's like something is not, like, I understand you're mixing a lot of things, but none of this, like, matches or goes together. So I'm just like, as he's telling me now, I mean, then at least I don't feel bad because I can see that you're getting the same concept, like, what the hell moment, what are they thinking? Yeah, I have no idea who came up with this idea. Well, they came up with it together, but let them tell it. They really, I think, believed that this was actually, like, going to work. I mean, and they really did it in grandeur. I mean, they did a whole live stream, thing on it and everything. And on top of it, they opened it to the public. And it was down in this basement of this local small restaurant. And I'm seeing it on live stream, and I noticed that they've got a whole bunch of kids in there at this thing, doing this.
That's weird.
How horrible is that?
That's really horrible. That's totally lame. And this whole concept sounds just off the hook ridiculous. But at the same time, I kind of want to see that episode if they're going to film it because it just sounds ridiculous. And it'd be just.
Oh, I'll send it to you. I think it's still up on YouTube actually.
They actually did it. They did it.
Yeah.
Wow.
No.
Unbelievable.
That's what I said. They did it on Halloween night.
Oh.
The year before. And. They opened it to the public, and when you see the video, it had a bunch of, like, people had brought their kids to this thing.
Yeah, everyone's watching the hearse go down to the cemetery. They're like, "Yay, go! Be free!"
Yeah, well, they were like, doing a whole summoning ceremony and crap, down in the basement to try to coerce these things to, that they weren't supposed to be there anymore and to get in the box so that they could, cross them over and all this crap. And they had all these kids there participating in the ceremony. And, I mean, again, I just felt like it was so reckless, because it's kind of like, I don't know.
It's unbelievable. I mean, that's pretty creative, I guess, but it's like, that's not going to work.
Right. Well, and again, it was for a radio show, so I think that it was, a big promotion thing. But again, there are a lot of times when you can go and you can, try and do this stuff for, fun or to, pull a prank on somebody or whatever. And it has some, bad consequences where, portals get opened or, different things can happen. People could be attacked.
Yeah.
The last thing that I would do, regardless, especially if I believed in what I was doing, and I was going to be, interacting with some spirits, one which I knew was, not to have been something, of peace or tranquility was, actually quite negative, and it was, keeping all these other human spirits there who had actually, died in the restaurant itself, down in the basement, had fallen down the stairs, and a couple other people were killed, and then dumped, their bodies were dumped into the basement. And so, knowing the history of it and knowing what they were wanting to do, how you would allow any kind of children to be there, to me, just seemed so reckless, and it just seemed so wrong.
Yeah. Where are these kids' parents?
Well, they were there.
They're there too, paying money to sit down. Yeah.
Well, they didn't even pay money. They just opened it up free to the public. And they said, hey, the radio show, this host from the radio show is going to be, at this, restaurant, and it's a haunted location, and they're going, for Halloween, they're going to do a crossing over ceremony. If you want to be part of it, show up at this time, blah, blah, blah. And, it said that you'd have to sign a release because it was going to be videotaped and stuff. And they had a whole bunch of people show up. I thought nobody would show up.
Oh, wow.
But there was people who showed up on it.
Wow, anyway. They're lucky that someone didn't get attacked or something else happened, I mean, they're lucky that nothing happened, but you can't be talking about that stuff. You got a big nasty entity in there that's trying to control other spirits. You're just going to piss that thing off, and it's going to come after you.
Right. Oh, absolutely. So let's also talk about, because this has been, a big topic this last year, especially in the movies, as well as in a lot of, event conferences, and especially with the movie right now, we're going to talk about the Ouija board and the, all of the memorabilia and stuff that they have now. I went to the mall the other day, and not only did I find a Ouija board game, and then I found the regular Ouija board, then I found a Ouija board blanket, I found a Ouija board jogging cup, a regular glass, a beer mug, a T-shirt, sweatshirt, hat, shot glass, you name it, I was finding it. And it all had the Ouija board stuff, emblem on it. Now, we also, it's been known, for a while that they ended up putting out a Barbie Ouija board for, little girls, and it's from the ages 5 and up, and then a glow-in-the-dark Ouija board for young boys.
Uh-huh.
So, what is your, perception and your thoughts on Ouija board?
I got a couple of different opinions. Ouija boards can be very bad. We've seen lots of people have bad experiences with them. Depending on the person, a lot of people don't take it serious, and it's kind of a collection thing, and they're not really focusing. Basically, a Ouija board is an oracle. You're putting your fingers on the pad, and it's moving around. You're concentrating. You're building up that cone of energy in front of you. You're putting all this excess energy into this wooden board, so it's going to kind of react. Other spirits in the area can pick up on this energy now, and they're going to go over there and they're going to get involved, and sometimes they talk to you like that. The problem is, when people play with these things, they don't know what they're doing. They're opening up a doorway that they don't know how to close. They're leaving these things open. There's so much going on that they're not realizing. We've heard bad stories about it. We've seen Ouija boards going across the room, people being scratches on the Ouija boards, all that fun stuff. But I don't think it's a great idea to be pushing this stuff to kids, thinking that it's all fun and games. It's like, oh, I got a Ouija board just like my grandma did. You know, I'm going to play with it with my friends tonight. You know, we're going to try to contact Casper. It's like, no. Because you're opening just a random doorway and you don't know what's standing on the other side or what's going to come floating through.
Absolutely. And I agree with you because I say all the time, you know, a Ouija board is a tool, no different than if you have a pendulum, dowsing rods, you know, whatever you're going to use. It's just a tool. But it's, you know, number one, the intent behind it. And, you know, that is a tool for communication. So you're opening up, you know, to interact with something on the other side. Problem is that more likely than not, you are not, you know, going to end up interacting with who you are wanting to interact with. And the problem is that once people open the door, first of all, they don't know how to open them nor shut them correctly. Most of the time, they will start out, you know, using it, interacting, everything will be fine, and then there will, you know, something will change. They'll start getting some darker answers, and usually, you know, somebody gets scared, and then they just close it down and either, you know, put it away or throw it away or whatever. And so that's left open, and then what do you know? Here they've got activity. And I've been noticing, you know, a lot because, you know, I post random things on my page all the time to get people's, you know, opinions. And the Ouija board is always a you know, a big topic on my pages. And, you know, most people are like us. They say, you know, it is not a good thing to use. But there are, you know, many people out there who, you know, I notice are very vocal about the fact that they utilize the Ouija board at every investigation, and that nothing has ever happened to them, and that they do it basically to kind of provoke something happening, and something still hasn't happened.
But that doesn't even really make sense. Using it to provoke, but nothing happens, and it's not like something's never going to happen. They're basically going into investigations and they're playing Russian roulette. You know, they're out of 100 times nothing happens, and they lower their guard and say, "Oh, this is just whatever," you know, nothing's not going to happen, and then that one time happens, and it changes the whole ball game.
Right, and we know that on the other side there is no time. So, you know, something could end up being attached to you after using it, and it just decides to just for a long time, you know, to really kind of play games with you, to make you think, or that person thinks that, oh, here I'm playing with a Ouija board and nothing has happened. Actually, something has happened, and it's just waiting for that specific moment, you know, to come and attack. Because it doesn't always happen right away.
Yeah, exactly. And these are spirits. Time is kind of irrelevant to them. You know, time's a total different thing for them versus us.
Right.
They can wait years and years and years before doing anything. You never know they're there.
Absolutely. And, you know, and the thing is that, I mean, they just are going to kind of, you know, wait because they want to get, you know, the most bang for their buck, you know. So it's like if they're going to come after you, they're going to wait for that, you know, just perfect timing because, you know, a lot of times people will notice it's like when they'll say, oh, when it rains, it pours.
Yeah.
You know, and it usually does. You know, it's like when you're going through those kind of things, it does. It attracts a lot of negativity, and then, wow, what do you know? Like, you know, it comes out the woodwork, and you're getting hit from left and right. So, you know, yeah, for me, you know, it bothers me that we're, you know, having all these, you know, movies and, you know, putting all this attention to the Ouija board again. But I was kind of expecting it, you know, and definitely with, you know, by making the movie, it definitely started. And we went, actually, one of my teammates, investigators of mine, Renee Chavez and myself had went, and we saw, what was it? It was one of the ones that's got about like 40 different, you know, different episodes afterwards, but it was one of the ones that had all the sequels, and in the last one, they were playing with the Ouija board, and they kept going to it to ask, you know, questions and stuff, and things would happen. And again, we sit here and we see these kids, you know, knowing better, but they're driven to still, you know, chance it anyway. And that really is the reality of our teens nowadays, is that they really don't have a fear, and in fact, if it's something that they're fearful of, they want to try to, take it on, full force, and so they're not afraid. But, again, using Ouija boards and things like that, it's almost, we are very manipulated in our, teens, and our children are very manipulated by television and what we see in the movies. So it's very scary that, some of these kids, are getting very involved in all this darker magic and checking out all, trying to work with the Ouija board, things like that.
Yeah. They think it's a toy, and they see it on TV, and it must be fun. And now, making it, like you said, making all these products and stuff coming out now, and that's exactly what Parker Brothers wanted to do. Have some scary movie come out and then put a bunch of product out, and everyone's going to buy it. And I just don't understand it. People go, oh, wow, that is so scary. That is so dangerous. I need to go have one. It's like, really? Yeah. Why would you do that to yourself?
Yeah. But, same thing. I mean, I can say as a teen, I knew all about Ouija boards and things like that and what they were supposed to be. And even though all the scary stuff, I still ended up using one in order to try to kind of prove that I really had psychic abilities to some friends of mine in middle school. So, I don't think I knew any of my friends who didn't have a Ouija board in their family, game closet. So, there's a lot of people, I think, that, again, because it's, a game, and it says, for not real, it's for game purposes and stuff like that. I mean, people believe that. They don't understand how, serious these things are. And it just blows me away that they can still be able to be manufactured and put on the market. In some countries, the Ouija board is completely illegal.
Yeah.
So it's strange that here not only will we market it to adults but to young children, and try to tell people that there's no validity to it being anything, a tool of any kind of negativity. Like, when does that change? Like, when will people finally say, oh my gosh, like, we got to stop letting this happen?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, then they think seriousness about it is no longer a game, but then again, at the same time, it's a game. It's just one of those things that, I guess it has to do with some of the intent, I don't recommend people that don't know what they're doing using these things, but I know of people who are experienced with this kind of stuff, and they use them, and they use them for investigator communication, sure. But I'm not okay with us pushing this stuff on kids for pop culture. It doesn't really make sense, Just like we'll see people shooting each other on the news with guns, but then children's toy gun sales go up. It's like, really?
Right.
When are we going to start educating the children about how dangerous this stuff is? If they just when they're older, sure, they can investigate techniques and practices with people who are experienced, but just don't give this stuff to a kid. Oh, it's just a game. Go have fun, sweetie, because you don't know what's going to happen. You could be in a house that's got a lot of energy, just manifesting and waiting around for something to try to communicate with it. All of a sudden, little Susie's in her room playing with the mysterious, my invisible friend. We see it all the time, and there has to be some kind of cautiousness to it.
Right. I completely agree. Now, what are also your thoughts now with my group? Because of the fact that a good majority of the people on my team have some type of psychic ability. Myself and my group, we mentor children with abilities. so that they can kind of understand what's going on with them, so, they don't really have to endure, going through it the hard way and not understanding like so many of us did growing up. But what we're seeing now is other teams popping up with these so-called mentoring programs or junior investigating teams. What are your thoughts about taking, and I'm not talking about teenagers, well, we'll say teens too, but we'll say, starting at, say, 6 years old all the way up to, 18?
Depends a little bit for me. I think it's great that for some children there's, teams of psychics and people like yourself that are willing to share their experiences and help these children understand what's going on with them. Like I said, when I was a child, and with my experiences and my friends, a lot of them knew about the whole ghost thing. And it was kind of like a joke, oh, there's a ghost kid again, there's that guy, and you feel kind of weird.
Right.
You start becoming kind of reckless and hanging out in the back and stuff because you're afraid that you're weird. And I think it's great for children to understand they're not weird. They're experiencing this stuff, and it's not paranormal. It's actually very normal. We're misusing the word paranormal a lot because, it's not really unnormal because it is normal. This stuff has been happening and has been in recorded history since the beginning of time. So it's just hard for us to understand. And until recently, we've been able to do a lot more into the research of it to have the ability to understand it more. So I think, as far as that goes, that's fantastic. On the other hand, I'm not sure it's okay for parents who are involved in the paranormal, who find it very fascinating and interesting, to take their children to possibly dangerous places.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, on one hand, you got these kids that already experienced something, so you're helping them find their way. And then you have these parents that are taking these other kids out, and they're making them try stuff. So I'll go sit over there in that corner, and see if you can make contact with something. It's like, I'm not sure that's what we should be doing.
Right.
Our children, our precious children, who we're supposed to be protecting, and make them trigger objects.
And that's exactly, you're hitting right on it, too, because the thing is like, with my mentorship program, it is to work on, teaching them connected with their abilities. They are a target, and so to take them out investigating, again, it can be very dangerous, and I don't feel that is something that we, should be doing, or we should be sending our children out, with teams to investigate. There's just so many bad things that can happen, and I don't see any real worth of taking young children out and teaching them how to investigate. I mean, you want to teach them about the paranormal, great. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But, teaching them to go out and investigate and interact with them, I don't think that's, is what they need.
We need to have the responsibility to protect our children and not let danger happen to them. Because that's what it's all about, protecting our children.
Right.
And the same thing goes with containment dolls. Don't try to channel a spirit of somebody into a porcelain doll and then give that doll to a child to try to, play with or whatever, because we've seen bad results happen with that as well.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, again, it's like, what are people thinking about? Or maybe that's the whole thing, is our point, is that a lot of times people aren't thinking before we finish up.
Sure. For those of you who are listening, my name is Stefan Regatti, and I am the host of My Darkest Hour Radio on liveparanormal.com and History FM Radio. One way you can reach me is going to send me an email at mydarkesthourradio at gmail.com, And also you can go to my Paranormal Teams page, www.pacificcoastparanormal.com. You can contact us there as well. And if you have any questions, please send me those. If you guys want to send me more pictures of orbs, please feel free. If you want me to respond, I will tell you exactly what I think. At the Standard Time and 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
Okay, and that's on Live Paranormal, you said?
LiveParanormal.com and History FM Radio.
All right, and we'll put up the links over on the Paranormal Connection page so that if anybody wants to get a hold of him, we'll have all those links right underneath the episode. So we'll put all that out. I want to thank everybody in chat room tonight. You guys are always amazing. We have a group that comes every week, and it is our chat room, I'll say, is definitely, one that has a lot of fun. It is kind of crazy in there, but, definitely some fun people. I really appreciate you being on the show tonight, Stefan. I mean, it's been a great 2 hours, and I always enjoy talking to you. We have to do this more often.
Yeah, it's been great. I've had a wonderful time, and the chat room is fantastic. There's all the activity on there. Thank you so much, Christina, for having me.
All the listeners, my goodness, each week that the listener numbers go up, it just it humbles me so much. So thank you so much for all of your support through all this. And do you have any upcoming events or anything that you're going to be doing?
I'm putting together my list. We've got a couple of things pending, but nothing definite for sure.
All right. Yeah. Well, it's just about that time where January, February, everybody starts getting their lists and signing up and signing contracts, and so we'll definitely, when you get that list together and you got, where you're going to be, let me know and I'll help definitely to promote it.
Awesome. That sounds great. Thanks so much.
You're very, very welcome. All right, everybody. Well, that's the end of the show for tonight. I do want to say, make sure to check out the Paranormal Connections Facebook page if you haven't. We are trying to get as many likes as we can over this next week into the new year, and we'd like to see if you would help us by sharing that link and liking the page. Also, check us out on Twitter under Paraconnection, and you can be able to keep track of all of the upcoming guests as well as all of the archive shows. So much coming for this new year. 2015 is going to be a very interesting year for us. Also, make sure to check out Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond this Wednesday with myself and Renee Chavez. It will be our last show for the year because obviously we have Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve both fall on the Wednesdays of our show, so this will be our last show of 2014 year, and we are going to be having a very, very interesting guest, and we're going to be talking about Stonehenge. So make sure to check us out Wednesday night, same network, here on the DTM Wicked Radio Network. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We will see you next week, and again, thank you so much to my guests for joining us tonight, and we will see you all next week. Good night, everybody. Good night, Stephen.
Good night. Good night, everyone. Good night, Tomboy.